Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rehab 610, Medical Aspects of Rehabilitation. I'm Dr. Margaret Glenn, the instructor for this course, and have been for a number of years. I hope that each of you will take this course as seriously as I'd like to, because no matter what role you're going to be in as a counselor, people are going to be impacted by disability. And you're in a rare program if you're more interested in the clinical mental health side of this, because you're going to get a broader view of a major, one of the largest minorities in this country are people with disabilities. So I hope I've made it somewhat interesting for you, even though there's a part of this is, we have another course, Rehab 612, that's about more the psychosocial aspects of rehab. I've included a lot of stories of rehab in the throughout. I grew up at Woodrow Wilson Rehabilitation Center in Fishersville, Virginia. Literally grew up there because my mom went to work there when I was 7 years old. The rehab center there, it's not an addictions rehab center. It was one of 7 in the country when I was young that focused on the rehabilitation of people with primarily physical disabilities, but also it started to morph into more some people with learning disabilities and that type of thing. It was comprehensive. There was a medical facility, physical therapy, occupational therapy, vocational evaluation, vocational training. People lived on campus, and it was kind of an interesting world to grow up in. I'll have to admit, it was a little different than most people have, and I feel lucky to have done that because gave me a perspective of what people with disabilities are like. Now, I will have to say, Mom used to send me off to, she believed in taking your daughter to work long before anybody else did. And she would send me off to, just go wander everybody knew me. You have to understand, it was a tight community, small community. Most of the people, we all went to church together. Some were her best friends. So I would wander around and usually ended up sitting and talking to some of the people who were the clients of the consumers of the services. And as I was growing up, I kept wondering why I had difficulty. I could jump off a diving board, but I could not dive off a diving board. I could water ski, interestingly enough, but I could never ski down a hill. I was just like, it was frozen. I took all sorts of lessons. When I moved to Montana, everybody's like, oh, skiing out here is different. Not when you're scared to death, because I realized one day there was we were talking about something related to how where our fears and beliefs come from. And it dawned on me that I had spent much of my growing years getting to know people who were living in wheelchairs. They were using wheelchairs to get around and be mobile. They were spinal cord injured or head injured. And most of them told me the stories. And it was often, a lot of car accidents. I do drive a car, but skiing down a hill and diving off at the wrong place were 2 of the big ones. So it's amazing how impactful our histories and our stories that we bring to our world as a counselor are. So think about it a little bit as you work with people to begin to look at just how are you reacting. I had a friend of mine when I was in Washington, D.C. I did a lot of disability. I was a voc rehab counselor in the area. And I had a lot of friends who were in wheelchairs. I was just a lot of them. My best friend, George, had a form of muscular dystrophy that meant he was in a wheelchair for a long time. It's like my little Buddha, loved him to death, he and his wife. And 2 or 3 people there that had been consultants for me and trainers. And she told me later on, now this is a woman who was by background, I think, Lebanese. And she married a man of color, older man, and wonderful couple. She always had to live in the funkiest area of DC because, she was cool. She believed in cultural diversity and loved it, which I totally thought was wonderful. And then one day she told me after that we had a going away party when I was moving out of DC and into Montana. And she said that she had a visceral reaction to walking into the room because she had never been around people with significant disabilities, and definitely not around about 6 or 7 people who are all in wheelchairs at different levels. And it was a little of awakening for me that we have a whole culture, for lack of a better way of describing it, that a lot of people just don't have a great deal of experience around. And when they think of diversity, they don't often think of disability as a diverse element in the world. So you're going to be a little different world, and I hopefully you'll make a difference for a lot of people. No, just flip through. Check out our we're going to check out our syllabus because that's usually the main question. So I'm going to try to explain, describe, do whatever to help you understand a little bit more about what everything is. Now, knowing that, there's also a discussion posting attached to this that you can ask questions on. So this syllabus will give you a description of what the overall elements are, what the textbooks and resources are like, the assessments. There is an assessment artifact in Tavera, which you'll find out a little bit. I'm not going to go into great detail about that because you're going to find out more about that in the orientation that you go through next week, and you'll see it in your clinical your handbook. It's a little complicated. I'm not going to. We could be here for hours if I try to explain everything. And then I'm going to go through the weekly outlines of exactly what's going to happen during the semester. So learning outcomes, there's 3 different kinds of learning outcomes that are in your textbook. One is the core, like what are the core counseling that no matter what your specialization is, there's a core counseling standard. So you'll see that first. And then there's standards related to the clinical rehabilitation counseling part of our program, as well as the clinical mental health counseling. These are all associated right now with what we call the 2009 CACREP standards. CACREP is the Council Accreditation of Counseling and Rehabilitation Programs. Yeah, I'm on the board right now. And actually, you think I wouldn't be questioning what the abbreviation spells out, but I still do it. It's a national accreditation body that is does a couple things. One, it makes sure that you're getting the education and training you need to be an effective counselor starting out in the world. And number 2, it protects people that you'd be serving down the road, or counselors are serving. So everybody, when you graduate, you should all be getting the same kind of, definitely all the core ones, but also the ones that are related to the specializations that you've chosen. It could be these or school counseling, career counseling, marriage and family, addictions. There's a number of them that are associated. If you're interested, I can give you a link to more of that information. But that's also in your student handbook. Now that I think about it. Your required textbooks and related resources. The first is a textbook called Medical and Psychosocial Aspects of Chronic Illness and Disability. I'm going to be honest with you. This would be the one I would buy if I was a student, and keep, because they did an amazing job of going through and giving you a lot of what you need to know. If you're sitting there in a mental health counselor role and somebody comes in and they're dealing with their some neurodegenerative disorder in their life, you want to go to a really quick resource that'll help. And this one you're not going to find too many that are designed to address the counseling as well as sort of the rehabilitation, the medical, all of the issues that are associated with these different disabilities. So don't underestimate this textbook. Keep it around. It'll also help you in your other classes. You can use it as a reference. It's a wonderful one. Yes, it's expensive, and I have a huge commitment to keep expenses down for students. And I will tell you, this is the one that I would say go for the full look. Get it. Just get it. Merck manual, the Merck manual of medical information. This is online. There's a link on your syllabus for that. The other one for you to know, we talk about the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, that the APA put out related to mental health disorders, but there's one for classifications of diseases internationally done by the World Health Organization. Link to that, get to know it and use it. And you'll use it in your case studies that we're talking about. And then there's WebMD. These are the last three, they're all online. They're all available, widely available. And I'm going to be referencing and sending you to specific pieces in the different weeks that we're together, okay? The assessment, there's some assignments and examinations. I said an examination. I'm gonna have to review my own PowerPoints. There's a 200-point scale. Overall grading for the class was as follows. An A is 180 to 200 points. A B is 160, 179. C is 140 to 159. Now, if you could just, you have to understand a C in graduate's work is not what a C in undergraduate would be, or high school or whatever. It's unsatisfactory and requires remediation. There's usually one element of, one or two elements of your work that might have lent itself to you having a C. And I'll be honest with you, is the rehab case study does the most harm for people because they don't take it as seriously as they should. It's a major part of your work in this course is that culminating case study. I want to know that you've learned the elements of disability and rehabilitation and how to present a case study. And it's important. It's just, it's only, you're going to only look at one disability and create a client related to that disability, but you're going to learn what it is when you're presenting. What do you need to present when you're talking about somebody with other professionals? Okay. D and F, really an F, you're pretty much unable to continue into the program. Unless there's hugely extenuating circumstances. D, really, the faculty, you'll have to retake the course at the level of a D. And the faculty have to agree that your overall participation lends itself to believe that this could be remedied, okay? Writing and communicating, APA writing style guidelines. Now, I don't expect it in the discussion postings, but when you're writing a case study, going in through the textbook and answering the questions for the mini case studies and doing the big one, you're going to do a short, abbreviated summary for the large one, and you're going to have a reference page available for me. And APA writing style is important in all of that. You're getting a very special free training, which is a great opportunity that I found in your research class. So you should be learning this at early on, okay? And if not, there's guidelines online. One's called Purdue OWL, O-W-L, and they have, you just link it, go to it, and they give you examples. It's really not as difficult as people want to make it out to be, because there's so many resources. Guidelines for writing about people with disabilities through the ADA National Network. One of the things, again, I don't care what kind of counseling you go into, you will need to represent yourself as someone who is competent in both writing and speaking about people with disabilities, using the correct language, not those people, or, a crippled person, or a wheelchair there's different language. There's person first language that is very important in our world. This whole thing starts out with words are powerful. How we using strength-based languaging is a big one for me. In fact, a training program that I'm running through a grant is we're operating a strength-based what we call pre-employment transition services practitioners in rehab, vocational rehab, because rephrasing, and not rephrasing to the point of not explaining something correctly, but using language that is not crippling in itself or limiting in itself is important. The lecture sections are divided into, there's lecture sections, the overview of functioning and disability, which is a larger overall framework. And then I'll explain to you a little bit more detail. Then we go through the nervous system, developmental conditions, sensory disorders, the immune system, HIV infection and sickle cell anemia, cancers, diabetes and rheumatic conditions, amputation and chronic pain. Those of you in mental health will, well, all of you will love the chronic pain one. Not, it's, I mean, it's chronic pain, but there is a discussion called number of spoons or something like that in there that's really intriguing about how to work with people who are in chronic pain. I guess you could actually think emotional pain. You could probably use the same kind of idea with emotional pain. But anyway, section 1, cardiovascular disorders. So those are the main disorders. We cannot in any way reach out and get to every single disability there is in the amount of time we have. So these are really the focus areas that we're going to be able to get to. That's why I want you to keep that textbook so that you have a really good understanding of a lot of different disabilities. We focus more on adults with this. There are some youth-oriented ones. We don't go into learning disabilities, emotional disorders, intellectual disabilities, that kind of thing, because that's handled in another course in mental health. Okay. When I grade, just to let you know, to go back to the other discussion, you're not going to gain grade points for participation, but you can lose them if you don't show up in the discussion postings. And you know what? Ask questions yourself. Just think of things that you, or tell stories, give examples, whatever, in the discussion post. Have fun with it. Not just what I created as a tickler for everybody, but you know, tell a story. If you have somebody in your life who's had, tell that story if you're willing to. You don't have to, you know, again, privacy is important for people, and you don't have to share things that you don't want to. But you know, if sharing something moves people's learning forward, go for it. I do it all the way through, but I'm in a different role. So medical terminology activity is 20 points. Many examinations, the quizzes are 100 points. Now, I will have, you'll see it in the syllabus, but there's going to be 10 examinations you're going to take. There's 11 exams, mini exams in here, quizzes basically. You're going to get to choose one not to do. And I would suggest you do it when you're doing your textbook case studies. Those are 20 points. You're going to do 2. You're just going to pick out 2 of the case studies. It cannot be one of the disabilities that you have chosen for the larger medical case conceptualization. I'll show you that I've chosen some of the areas of disability for you to choose from for that, for the large case study, because some of them lend themselves to be not, I don't want to say, yeah, easier, more, there's more to discuss around certain disabilities and others. And I also picked those that were at the beginning of the course, so you could start to prepare early for this case study. Don't wait till the last minute on it. Just start collecting some of the stuff as you go along, and you'll be surprised how quickly it comes up. Okay. So this project, you're going to learn to apply the principles and practices of rehab counseling, demonstrate the appropriate use of assistive technology and job accommodation principles. In the very first week, and unfortunately it's in the first week, which means some people kind of blow past it, but do not. Just remember, you're going to have to go back and look at that information in week 1, because I have an additional module in there to address assistive technology and job accommodation, because most of you have not, some of you have taken the career development and job placement class, and you'll be a little further ahead on that. But for those of you who don't, that will handle providing the information you need for this assignment. as well as some of the information that you're gonna, you'll get a lot of this even in the textbook, but even more through the Job Accommodation Network and some other resources that I give you in that. Demonstrating appropriate use of diagnostic materials. You'll also be showing your understanding of the effects of disability in a person from a holistic perspective. Designing a case study, you're going to choose from the cerebral palsy. You could also do spina bifida if you want to. Spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, blindness, significant vision loss, deafness, significant hearing loss. One of the reasons why these are, give you a little bit more information. When you're working with people, whether you're doing a psychoeducational group, you're up in front of a class teaching, or you're working one-on-one, you need to understand what it means to accommodate them and to make sure that they understand and that the materials that you use are appropriate maybe for someone with vision loss, as well as what if somebody comes in with a significant hearing loss? How do you communicate with them? If they come in with an interpreter, how do you work with the interpreter? So these are important ones for you to learn a lot more about, okay? They're all important, but these are some of the more significant ones. Content presentation. For that, you're going to do, you're going to design some written materials. I want 3 pages of don't go crazy with it. Of basic information as a summary of the, when you go into your syllabus, you'll see the elements of the things that I want you to talk about. Just don't miss any of them. Just go through and organize yourself. Reference page. I want you to use the APA writing style and talk to me about the references you use. You should be using, 10, 12 references at the least on this to prepare. Because you're looking at the etiology, you're looking at the, how do people get diagnosed? What are some of the assessments that are used? What are the accommodations people need? And is there assistive technology that would be helpful? And also, is there a higher prevalence of coexisting disorders within a particular disability group? You'll do an accommodation request letter. You're going to write a letter that where you work with the person on requesting an accommodation from an employer. And again, I'm giving you a template when I talk about the Job Accommodation Network. And I don't know how many people totally ignore me on this, but I'm going to tell you, I make it simple. You just have to listen to me, okay? In-depth presentation of the case study information. You're going to do PowerPoint slides, okay? And then you're going to do a video presentation on the PowerPoint slides. You're going to record it. We'll upload it to Apple, private links, and I'm going to divide the group up so y'all watch each other's presentations during that couple weeks after. There's a lot of you, larger group than normal. And I'm going to divide it up the week after Thanksgiving so that you have a chance you're going to critique each other, okay? And that's going to be your final case study at the end of the day, okay? I think we've done, the weeks that we go through. The first module is about conceptualizing the functioning disability and health. Then we go into the nervous system. So 2, 3, and 4 are associated with the nervous system, traumatic brain injury, spinal. We give you an overview of whatever that system is, those sections, okay? Then neurodegenerative and neuromuscular, that's more oriented to things like dementia, Parkinson's, etc. There's a holiday in there, September 5th, the university's closed. You may end up wanting to work on your course during that, but I am trying to be a little bit more involved in self-care as a faculty member, and I'll be taking the holidays away from class, okay? Not that many of them. We don't get that many. Section 3, developmental conditions. Week 5 is going to be about cerebral palsy and spina bifida and other, what we're talking about is related to what is a developmental condition. Section D, sensory disorders, conditions of the eye and blindness, hearing loss and deafness. Sorry. Then section E is the immune system, HIV infection, and sickle cell anemia. That's week 8. And this one, HIV/AIDS it's been interesting to see 30 years later what HIV/AIDS means in the world right now and how far we've come. When I was a voc rehab counselor and a supervisor, particularly when I was a supervisor, I lost a couple of friends and employees to HIV/AIDS. I was in the DC area, and my dissertation, by the time I think it was 95 or so, 1995, HIV/AIDS medical advancements had led it to the point where people were surviving and they thought they had no future. And many of them were because of because HIV and AIDS is a disability, they were reaching out to the vocational rehab world to help them reestablish themselves or accommodate what issues they may have in the workplace. A lot of it was, I hate to say it, was just the attitude of people's perception of people about it. There is a fall break in this week, October 7th. The university is closed. We just have 2 days, not 1 day. Then week 9, I'm going to give you a break from this course during except for the Friday. You can pick up on the Friday, but it'll be up for the next week. Will be up for Friday, but this is the Counseling 501 immersion week for the fall cohort. Those of you who took it in the spring, yeah, you get a break from me, from Miss. Those of you who will be here, and those of you who may have done it in 501 and want to come by, feel free to check it out and let us know if you want to come in and watch people. It's going to be on camp. I mean, right now it's going to be not on campus, but in Morgantown in a hotel. And you'll meet Lily. Lily is my dog. She was trained originally as a service dog, and she's a mess. I'm looking at her right now because she's really bored with me working at home. So October 17th to the 20th, you'll be there. She'll probably be in there wandering around. She loves to calm everybody down and just sort of disrupt the place a little bit. But she's not a service dog. She's a visitation dog. She barks. They couldn't get her to stop barking, so they gave her to me. So as a faculty member on campus, I bring her with me, and she's our pup. Okay. Week 10 and 11, 10 is specific cancers and their management. 11 is I keep doing that, diabetes and rheumatoid arthritis. Then we have amputation. 12 is amputation and chronic pain. Then we end with cardiovascular disorders. Now, during this week, there's a general election day, November 8th. The university is closed. And that's the major content areas, because shortly after that, we have fall recess between November 19th and the 27th. It's also known as Thanksgiving to some of us, but I know not everyone celebrates Thanksgiving. So I have to give a university credit. They're conscious. So they talk about it being fall recess. Of course, you just come back for 2 or 3 weeks. It's an interesting point in time to have a recess. Weekend 15 and 16, that's where we're going to be doing the presentations between November 28th and December 9th. The last day of classes is actually December 8th, so I will probably get done on that day. The final submissions and review of case study videos will be scheduled. Now, you will have done your video via YouTube. We'll open up sections that people will watch your video and have a discussion with you and ask you questions, and you'll be responsible for going in and answering those questions, including mine. Okay. December 16th is the final grading. Should be done by then. And so make sure you get everything in a timely fashion. If I get backed up because I've given a break to you to do it in later, that's fine. I get it. But if you're not submitting in a timely fashion, yours is not going to take priority. It's the priorities for whatever's up for me at that point, okay? Although I know there's extenuating circumstances, don't get me wrong, I totally understand that. So that's our presentation so far. I hope that it helps for you to be able to listen versus just read what is a pretty lengthy document. I know it's very lengthy. We want try to be as thorough and have you understand. There's a lot I didn't go over, so you need to make sure you take a chance and really review it, and then ask questions this first week. I usually go back and look for about 2 weeks just to see if there's any additional questions. Then we'll be taking off for the semester. I'm looking forward to it. I like this course. Things do get hectic, Era. I'm going to be honest with you. Things do get hectic. One of the bigger ones is I'm getting married September 24th. And so there's going to be a few days I'm just going to be a little absent. I'll let you know that. It's not the end of the world if I'm absent for a few days. But if there's anything that is going on that we need to pay attention to during that period of time, I'll make myself available. Just not on that Saturday, okay? And by the way, I sometimes work on weekends, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to make a habit of it. The worst part about being an online instructor, you can do it at any time, and your students are doing it at any time. So you have to we've had to set parameters, and mine is Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday need to be mine. Now, again, if you need, if there's an emergency, I am going to give my phone number to you for texting if there's an emergency that's going to create a problem for you. But do not call me to ask a question about the syllabus or the content. Wait until either email it. That's not a text emergency for a weekend, okay? There's course messages as well as emailing through Mix. I give my Mix account, so I keep my other communications separate from, and I can get to yours faster and easier. But I'm not sure. Of course, messages, I don't know. I guess I'll keep it up there and keep checking it. It just, I think sometimes the emails are a little easier because you don't have to go into the course. You just check your email. All right. Again, I'm looking forward to working with you. Lily will be dying to meet some of you, and she'll probably meet you in the spring too. Those of you who didn't get a chance to meet her during your Counseling 501. And let's just have a nice, when you get stressed, do me a favor, do something for yourself, take a break, take a walk, whatever it may be. But don't work yourself in a frenzy. If you're stuck and you really don't know what to do, reach out and I'll try to help you, okay? Really do try to help. I'm also kind of my brother told me I had the best job for me. I'm an absent-minded professor sometimes. Okay, take care. Looking forward to working with you.